In today's lesson, we are going to work through understanding simple interest. Welcome back to my channel, Numerics with Nadia, and let's get into our lesson objectives for today. By the end of this lesson, you guys should be able to understand the concept of simple interest, learn the formula, and be able to apply it to real-world scenarios through a bunch of practice problems as always. So to begin, let's start off with introducing simple interest and defining what it is. So let's start off with the definition. Simple interest is the extra money earned or paid on a principal amount over time. It is directly proportional to the principal, interest rate, and time. So those are the three components of simple interest: principal, interest rate, and time. We'll get into the formula and we'll learn how to apply it later. But for now, let's go through some examples of how simple interest is used in the real world. So simple interest could be seen as interest earned on a savings account, interest paid on a loan or a credit card, as well as interest on car loans or short-term investments. So this is definitely something that you guys will carry not just through school, but into your adult life. So it's definitely very important to understand this concept and what goes into it to be able to pass all of our tests and exams, but also apply it in the real world. So now that we've gone through and defined what simple interest is, as well as its real world examples, let's look at this formula. So the formula for simple interest is I equals P times R times T, where I is our simple interest, and the units for simple interest would be dollars. P is your principal amount, or also it can be referred to as your initial amount. The units for P are also dollars. Then we have our rate of interest, or your annual interest rate. The R, it has to be represented as a decimal. So this is a very important key point. Most of the time, interest rates are given as a percentage in these practice problems. So be sure to convert it to a decimal before solving the equation. And then last but not least, we have T, and this is also very important. Since this is simple interest and we are using an annual interest rate, our T variable will be time, but time measured in years. There will be other interest formulas that we'll go through in later videos that will have T in a different variable, but for now, this T for the simple interest formula is time in years. Make sure to copy this equation down in your notebook because now we are moving into our practice section for today. For our practice problems today, the directions say, using the simple interest formula, solve for the missing value. So for number one, we have, if you deposit $500 in a bank that offers an annual interest rate of 4%, for 3 years, how much interest will you earn? So what we have to do, let's go back through and find every component for our equation. So we're starting off with $500. That will be our principal amount. Our interest rate here is 4%, and we are given that time here is 3 years. So let's write out our simple interest formula. I equals P times R times T. Remember, we always have to make sure that our rate is in decimal form. We know that 4% as a decimal is 0.04. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and plug everything in. So we will have I equals 500 times 0.04 times 3. And you guys can just plug this into your calculator. You should be able to use calculators on questions like this in class. When we do that, we end up getting that I equals $60. So that is part of our answer, but since this is a word problem, we have to make sure we answer the question. So the question had asked, how much interest will you earn? So you will earn $60 in interest. That will be our final answer for number one. Now let's get into our second and final practice problem for today. For number two, it says, if you borrow $1,200 at a 5% annual interest rate for 2 years, what is the total amount you have to pay back? So again, we'll go through and label everything here. We have 1,200 as our P, 5% as our R. Our time here is 2 years. So again, we have to take our annual interest rate and make it into a decimal. So 5% is the same as 0.05. And now that we have everything, we'll go ahead and plug in. We'll have I equals 1,200 times 0.05 times 2. When we plug this into our calculator, we end up getting that I equals $120. And even though we might want to just box this answer and move on, we always have to go back to the question when it's a word problem. And here we see that our question was, what is the total amount you have to pay back? Well, we only found the interest. And in order to find the total amount, what we have to do is we have to take our initial principal and add the interest to see the total amount that you would have to pay back. Our principal amount was the $1,200, that's already in our question. And then the interest is what we just solved for, that is the $120. When we go through and add these two together, we get $1,320. So our final answer here, the total amount you would have to pay back is $1,320. And that is our last and final practice question for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's lesson. Feel free to like the video if you did, comment any questions or any other video topics you would like to see down below. Share this video with a friend, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time.